Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Steer Clear podcast. I'm your host, Dom Caps, and today I am joined by Wesley Riddle. How's it going, Wes?
Oh, it's going good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Back for episode 2 of the Steer Clear podcast. We've got a lot to talk about today. We had Dover last week. Definitely, a pretty chaotic beginning for some of the playoff drivers. The racing wasn't what we wanted or expected. And then after that, we'll go into Rodney Childers and his contract extension with the Ford team. We'll talk about what that means for him and Harvick. And we'll talk about Austin Dillon testing the next-gen car at Richmond. We'll see what we saw. Talk about that. And we'll wrap the show up with previewing Talladega because we know how easy it is to predict that race. So we'll start back at Dover. I want to start with Kyle Larson. He was up front basically all day and got out front off of the pit stops at the end of stage 2 and really never looked back. He ended up getting around about 10 seconds on second place. So once he got out front, he had the best car and was able to dominate the rest of the race. What did you see out there from Kyle Larson, Wes?
I thought it was a really good performance, and I think a lot of it had to do with getting that clean air and trying to be ahead of the cars that were faster in the field, such as Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., some of the guys that were up front for most of the day. But it was good to see Kyle Larson get back to victory lane after this season was pretty back and forth, and it also kind of reminded me a lot of last year with Kyle Larson coming up really close, leading a lot of laps, but nothing materializing in the end. And this year it finally took almost to the end of the season for him to get a victory, his last coming in 2017 at Richmond. But finally, Larson was able to bring it back in victory lane, which was well-deserved, and he had a really good car to prove it. And it's unfortunate the package wasn't really what they probably anticipated. It was really hard to pass, which we'll talk about in a little bit too. But even though it was hard to pass, Larson took advantage when he needed to and was able to get in the spot that he needed to get in with the help of his team, and ended up getting the victory after pretty much dominating the second half of the race.
Yeah, 75 race winless streak snapped. It looked like Kyle Larson, it's different. Like when you look at Jimmy Johnson's winless streak, I think it's up to 88 now. With Kyle Larson, he's been running up front. He's been in contention to win a lot of these races. He's finished second a handful of times. It's not like Kyle Larson has just faded out. With Jimmy Johnson, it feels like he's just fading back. When was the last time he was really in strong contention for the win? I think it was probably last year at the Charlotte Roval. That was the last time he really had a legitimate car and a legitimate chance to win. With Kyle Larson, you're not seeing that. You're seeing Kyle Larson run up front. You're seeing Kyle Larson get stage points. You're seeing him put points on the board, and it was just a matter of time before he broke through and won again. It was almost like the start of his career. He was so fast, and he just couldn't finish the deal. And once he did win, he broke out and got 5 wins. I think we could see the same thing. I think Kyle Larson is a dangerous driver moving forward here since he's got the win and now going into the round of 8 for the first time in his career. I'd look out. I think Kyle Larson is good at ISM. He's good at Texas. Martinsville may be a little iffy for him. But, Kyle Larson's one of the best drivers in these playoffs, and I would not count him out moving forward. And if he gets to Homestead, I think he's got to be the favorite for the championship.
I 100% agree. Like you said, Martinsville's going to be a little iffy once he gets to that round of 8, because looking at this race alone, out of the 6 times that he's been there, he has actually DNF'd in 4 of those. So I think that their prime focus should be on Martinsville to be able to try to get him inside of the top 20, because he does only have one top 10 finish, and that came in 2016 in the spring race. He finished 3rd, which was a good run, and maybe we could see something like that. But like you said, he's good at Texas, really good at Phoenix, at ISM, and if he goes to Homestead, even though that he hasn't had a chance to win yet because we've seen a little bit of bad luck against him in that final race, not only in the Monster Energy Cup Series, but in the Xfinity and the trucks. But
Hmm.
he's got a really, really good shot to maybe pull off. I wouldn't call it a massive upset, just since he has been competitive, but for the whole that he's been in the entire year, and especially after the first half of the year, I think it would be really impressive. And definitely, I guess to a degree, you can call it an upset if Kyle Larson is able to pull it off.
Yeah, that round of 8 is definitely going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how he handles actually being in that round of 8. I feel like a lot of it you couldn't really tell because I'm going to be honest, a driver's performance is definitely not as strong once they fall out of the playoffs. There's not as much to work for. It's just the cars aren't going to be set up the same as if you were going all out and you were in those playoffs. And when you go to Homestead with Kyle Larson, there was multiple times where he had the best car and he just pulled over for the championship battle. So I think if he gets to Homestead, he's got to be the clear cut favorite because that track just suits his driving style. And I think, this is going to be the last chance he's got to race at that track as the final race. So I think if he's going to get a championship, this year's going to be his best shot now. Get into the round of 8. And the round of 8 gets crazy. Martinsville gets insane. You get playoff drivers, getting taken out. If he could just keep his nose clean and even get, like a top 15, top 10 with some stage points and get himself set up for Texas. Because Texas is probably going to be his best shot to win, if not ISM, depending on how Kevin Harvick is at ISM. So, I didn't have Kyle Larson going to the Final Four. I didn't even have him going to the round of 8. So this is definitely farther than I thought he was going to go. And, Kyle Larson, him with momentum, scary. I think he's one of the best drivers with momentum. And that's, if he can carry that through, I think you can't count him out. You really just can't count him out. And, two other drivers you can't count out right now is Joey Logano. This was a chaotic start to Dover. Joey Logano doesn't even start the race. And he broke a track bar. And he comes out, he starts the race 24 laps down. And then Chase Elliott blows up in the first 10 laps, which, with a team with so much momentum coming off the win at the Charlotte Roval, this is just not ideal for him. And these are two guys that now sit, Logano sits tied with William Byron for the final playoff spot. And you got Chase Elliott now 7 points out after coming in with that, nice buffer with the playoff points. Both those drivers have just lost that buffer.
It is absolutely crazy. It shows that buffer isn't that they even with the buffer that they're going to be put in danger, and they didn't really have as much as like the Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., but they still had quite a bit, and it all went away just in one race. And the funny thing is people would have assumed that Talladega was the wild card. Well, for them, Dover was the wild card, and now they have to go into Talladega, assuming that that's going to be the race that they need to win. So now that they've kind of already used that mulligan and they're going into a track where anything can happen, they need to be worried to a degree, but not a whole lot because anything can happen to any of the other guys that are inside of the top 8 at the moment. But they're going to have to be aggressive. Penske's probably going to be the leading factor, so that might help Joey Logano get to the front, but they need to keep it up there. Same with what Ryan Blaney, who is also out at the moment. It was unfortunate to see Joey Logano go out that early, seeing that I can't recall the last time he's had a pretty significant mechanical failure like that. It's not like Paulie Haraka running into the back of Alex Kennedy at Sonoma. It wasn't Mark Martin turning left over Jimmy Johnson at Talladega. It didn't work, and they had to take it behind the wall. But luckily, they got it fixed, and they showed actually pretty good speed once they did get it fixed. Just not enough in comparison to like the top probably 10. He probably, if it would have happened, if they could have repaired it sooner, he was probably like a top, maybe around a 15th place car. So, and then unfortunate again for Chase Elliott too, having that mishap there on lap 9. He's gonna hopefully fare well at Talladega, seeing that he's won. He won there last year, or not last year, but in the spring.
Hmm.
Um, and it's going to be interesting to see how they all played out at Talladega.
Yeah, you look at it, Logano. I think there's no better driver you want to have in a must-win. Maybe Brad Keselowski, but it's the same team. There's no driver I probably want to have to go out there and either maximize the points day or win than Joey Logano going into Talladega. He has been so, he's maneuvered, Talladega really well
Mm-hmm.
over the past few years. And even with Chase Elliott, I can't count him out. Chase Elliott is one of the better restrictor plate drivers out there. You look at it, he's been up front. You get help from Alex Bowman, William Byron up there. Even Jimmy Johnson's not too bad. You can't. You got to think going this week. It'll be teammates, helping teammates until the end. But for those two, definitely not what they wanted. But a driver that did get what he wanted. Maybe not the max of what he wanted. He was looking for a win. But Denny Hamlin, in his 500th career start, he did win stage 1 and finished 5th. He was pretty satisfied. He was with the run, got a lot of stage points. I think got 18 during the race. Finished 5th at a track that he's notoriously bad at. So to walk away from Dover with that many points and being 48 above the cut line, can't be too disappointed. I think the only upsetting point here was at the end of stage 2 when Joey Logano basically held up the leaders and wouldn't move out of the way and was basically blocking to stay 24 laps down and really kind of heavily influenced the end of the stage 2. So drivers got mad. Hamlin called him an idiot, stupid move. I want to hear what you think, Wes, about Joey Logano racing like that.
I understand it to a degree, seeing the state that he was in and trying to, with the assumption and the entire team's assumption that somebody else would have some kind of mechanical failure, or maybe they were expecting more wrecks in that race. But I think the thing that was most surprising about the race overall is the fact that only 4 drivers did not finish.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Buescher, Reed Sorensen, Chase Elliott, and Ryan Blaney. Joey Logano was the last car running on the racetrack. And Garrett Smithley, J.J. Yaley, some of those guys back there in the back, they were slow and they were getting lapped, but Logano didn't have enough laps to be able to get around them. In the end, he only got, I guess, if you finish 34th, that's 2 points.
2 points.
So he only ended up getting 2 points instead of the 1. And that if Ryan Blaney didn't have that issue, he would have only got 1 point in the end. So I understand it to a degree, but in the end, you didn't make friends. No one else DNQ'd or did not finish, so you weren't able to get any more extra points from that. And it also didn't really. All he really did was show just the speed that he had in the car once it was fixed, which I guess was impressive, but still, holding up the leaders is never a good idea, especially when you're that many laps down. I feel like it's something hard. I think it's a pretty hard thing for a team to deal with when you're in Logano's shoes. Do you want to go back to the garage and just forget about trying to make an extra point up, or do you stay on the track and maybe just try to pull over? But then once you lose all that momentum at Dover, you're going to get run over by guys behind you. So, I mean, it's a tough situation, but I think it could have been played a little bit differently. I think he could have been a little bit more considerate, maybe just giving the inside lane, moving up the track a little bit, or just moving to the bottom and let them get the run off the outside. But I think the biggest thing we learned is that Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. and who else was it up front? Kevin Harvick?
Yeah, Harvick was up there. Larson was up there.
I don't think any of them are too pleased. So I think it's going to be their mission, especially after that race, to maybe keep Logano outside of the lead when they go to Talladega this weekend. What was your thought about Logano's tactics and his defensive maneuvers to try to avoid going that extra lap down.
Well, to quote Denny Hamlin, I think it was idiotic. I think it was a stupid move. It just, there's no sense of it. You're not battling anybody. The only chance you've got of passing people is if they go to the garage. That's the only chance you have. And I'm sure, and it didn't come down to one lap. It didn't come down to, oh, you beat this guy by one lap. Just didn't happen like that. It wasn't his day. And he's got to be considerate of that. He can't do that. And, it's just not smart. They were saying that on the broadcast, too, like, while it was happening. It's just not smart. Like, you got to be smart when it comes to these situations, especially in the playoffs. You might have been gaining the respect back from Hamlin and Truex, and then that's just out the window now. I feel like, because they've had histories. Logano, Truex, Logano, Hamlin, Logano, Harvick. I mean, they've all had history.
And it's all been pretty significant, too.
So, Logano not making friends, and I'm telling you, they get up to him. They get up to him, they're not going to let him pass. This is just how it's going to work. They might give him the bumper if they get to Martinsville. It's just not smart. You got to be situational awareness. You got to play it smart. And yeah, he said he gained 4 or 5 spots, but it only got him 1 point. And that was because of guys going to the garage. I don't care how slow someone's going. If someone's out on the racetrack the whole day, they're not going 24 laps down. I don't care if it's, Garrett Smithley, Joey Gase. They're not going 24 laps down by being on the racetrack. It's just not possible to keep minimum speed and go 24 laps down, running all the laps. So you just got to wonder what he was thinking in the time. Maybe he was upset, but you can't let that affect you and then make other drivers mad that are, many points ahead of you. Because right now, you've got everything to lose. They've still got that, buffer. Truex is 63 points to the good. As long as he doesn't lose any points to the 8th spot, he'll be locked into the next round before they even go to Kansas. Denny Hamlin's got a 48-point cushion. Harvick's got a 42-point cushion. Larson's got a win. So, just not smart racing by Joey Logano. We'll see if anything happens after it. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't think anything will happen unless one of them is like going a lap down and Logano's about to pass him. Then maybe they'll hold him up, But that's all I could see happening. I think these drivers are too focused on the championship to have to worry about Logano because he's so far back. Logano's got everything to lose, more or less. It could just be intimidation at this point. They could make Logano, they could scare Logano into a mistake or something, but that's all I could see. I can't see anything actually going down. I can't see a Matt Kenseth Logano incident. I can't see that. That might be a little too far. But, Truex did win stage 2, and I'm sure it could have come down to that bad pit stop at the end of stage 2 that sent him back to like 5th or 6th. That might have cost him the race because he did work his way back up to 2nd, and he was running down Kyle Larson until I think he hit some lap traffic as well. He cut it down from like 7 seconds to like a second and a half. Then it just kind of stalled out there. So I'm sure if Truex was leading, I think he probably could have won. But, all in all, a good day for Truex. He's got that 63-point buffer now. As long as I think if he leaves this race with like 59 points ahead of 8th, he'll clinch before even going to Kansas, and he's not bad at Kansas. So Truex looking like a lock to the next round. And the package itself wasn't good. There was one green flag pass for the lead, and that was caused by Joey Logano. Truex passing Hamlin at the end of the stage 2 was literally the only green flag pass. The rest of it came down to the pit crews, and that's what got Kyle Larson out front, and he really just pulled away. And just disappointing. And I want to hear what you got to say about this package, that they brought to Dover.
It was not great. I don't think it was what anybody anticipated. The passing was just abysmal, as you were stating, from the very start of the race. Because, like I think we both kind of mentioned, like Kyle Larson kind of had the best car towards the end, but was it even possible to tell who the best car was? Did Martin Truex Jr. have the best car? Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson? Because at certain points throughout the race, they were out front and they would lead all those laps because second place couldn't catch up to them, getting either trapped in the dirty air or just couldn't get around the leader. So it was kind of hard to tell. Like you said, the Joey Logano, once he got in the way, that was when the green flag pass happened. And ever since then, it was whoever was out in front was the quote unquote better car. But I mean, if I were to say anything, maybe Truex had the best car at the end of the race just because he was able to cut that margin out. But he probably wouldn't have been able to do anything with the pass unless Kyle Larson did get really held up. A lane was taken away. He got loose, hit the apron, just various factors. So I wish I knew more of the technicalities behind it to say, like, oh, they need to fix this or they need to fix this. But I'm not 100% there. All I can say is that as a fan, as somebody that's watched the sport since essentially like 1999, 2000, 2001, they need to fix some things, or else it's going to be much of the same, and I don't think fans are going to enjoy watching much of what we saw from this weekend.
Yeah, it's definitely not very good. Just no passing for the lead. And you look at Dover in 2016 when he had that crazy battle between Matt Kenseth, Chase Elliott, and Kyle Larson. That was really good racing at Dover. So I can't blame the track. Gotta look at the package. Got to do some work on that. Hopefully NASCAR doesn't find me here for saying that the package needs improvement. As they did to Denny Hamlin in 2013 for saying the car just needs some work. Got fined. But I think with this package, it's worked at some tracks, and at other tracks it's fallen apart. I definitely hope they do consider changing some stuff next year. I think they need to bring the horsepower back up. There's no reason an Xfinity car should be running the same speed as the Cup cars. But that's just everything. It's I don't know. And I think while we're on this package, Austin Dillon did test out the new next gen car at Richmond. We got a couple pictures of the car. Fans were going crazy. They're like, well, this is private. Why is Austin Dillon taking pictures of the car? Isn't that illegal? And it's more ways for fans to start controversy. As we stated last week on episode 1, Chairgate said NASCAR fans are the worst fans. I called them hypocrites. They don't know what they want. They want one thing and then it happens and then they're complaining about that and then they don't want it. But then, 2 weeks later they want it back. I don't know what goes through the heads of some of these fans, but you got to look at this test for the next gen car. Really, there's not too much other than, the wheels, they're 18-inch wheels now as compared to 15 inches. I don't know how much of a difference it did. No one saw it, so no one can tell you how the car drove. It was only one car, so you don't know how it races with other cars. You still got another year and a half for it to develop and before it becomes the final product at Daytona in 2021. But I think, as we talked about it last week, I said it could really sway the popularity of NASCAR. I think if they hit this on the nail, NASCAR could get back in the ratings. They could get back up there as one of the more popular American sports. Or if they bust again, it could down spiral again. Could lose even more fans. they're trying to attract the younger generation, but they're losing more of the older generation than bringing in the newer generation with what they've been doing. So I want to hear your opinion about the next gen car.
I wish I knew what's going to be a whole lot different with the car itself. Besides the wheels, I did know about the wheels, which I guess should help a lot more with, I guess, their control, especially in the turns, having a little bit of a bigger and wider wheel. But like you said, the one thing that I noticed that I think is going to be most important is to keep the fans interested just in NASCAR. And I think that this was a good year for it because we did see a pretty big downfall in 2017 and 2016 in terms of viewership, TV ratings, um, and also just attendance at some of the races. But this year, I feel like there's been improvements for every single race at every single track that they've been to on the circuit. I could be wrong. Maybe there's a couple that have had a little bit less, but I think that it's been back on the climb a little bit this year. So, like you said, they better nail it on the head when they get to next year or 2021. Because if they don't, it's going to, like you said, make or break kind of the future for NASCAR and kind of determine what's going to happen maybe in 5 or 10 years from now, because that it's going to be very important for them to just be able to get it right. So one thing I'm going to have to do is look a lot more in some of the technicalities to understand what's going to be different, not just on the outside and the exterior, but the interior and some of the technical and mechanical parts of the car to see how much that's going to play a factor. Um, but once I do that, then I'll be able to share a little bit more about what I think. And also, I think a lot of us need to see the car on the track just once they get more of a final product from what they have instead of right now where it's kind of like the early stages still. I think once we see a little bit more of what it's going to do, then and we're all able to see it on the track and its performance, then we can get a better idea of what is going to be in store for us in the future years.
Yeah, no, definitely gotta look at it's more or less NASCAR's a brand and they need to expand it. They need to get more people interested because 10, 15 years ago, NASCAR was the second most popular sport in America, second to the NFL. And that says a lot when you got, the NBA, the MLB. You know, NASCAR was one of the most popular sports to watch. And really, with the COT and then the Gen 6, it kind of just drove fans away. Because I don't know about you, but the Gen 4 cars, those cars just look so much better than what we have now. I think they just look
Mm-hmm.
so much better. Air wasn't as important. You could make passes. You could run up on someone at a mile and a half without just having a wall of air just stop you in the corner.
Mm-hmm. Those cars
So
were fantastic.
yeah, and then they tried to go safety, and in my opinion, we've had more people get hurt since we tried to go safer than when we did in between 2001 and 2007.
Yeah, there's been a lot of injuries, a lot of concussions, um, just because there's so much so much of a violent force when you get inside of that car, that there's not a lot of room for movement, which can make it bad too. There doesn't have to be a whole lot of space. Like look at NFL players when they wear helmets. All it takes is a little bit of a ricochet inside to give you CTE
Yeah.
over and over. So yeah, there's been a lot of injuries too, from Kyle Busch to Denny Hamlin to um, Michael Annett to just a bunch of different drivers over the past few years. So I think you're right on that.
Yeah, keep going safer, and we're getting more injuries. I It's just hard when they keep making drastic changes to the cars because before the COT, we hadn't seen such a drastic change in cars in like 30, 40 years. It was kind of just small changes, small gradual changes to get where we got, and now it's like massive changes every time we switch. And I just think, and it just comes down to the manufacturers. The manufacturers are, I feel like, with this, I feel like the fans don't care as much as they want as to whether their cars look like the ones on the racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, when NASCAR was at its all-time popularity, the cars all looked basically the same. I mean, yeah, the noses and the body looked a little different, but they didn't look like anything you were driving in real life, for day to day. I don't think fans really care about that aspect. I don't think they're like, wow, my Toyota Camry looks just like Kyle Busch's on the racetrack. I don't know. NASCAR, they're looking into more manufacturers to join, like Honda. I don't know how that would work. I I think the funniest thing is when people get mad about Toyota
Yeah.
and they say, "Oh, well, this is a foreign car," but for real, Toyota is the only American-made car in the sport.
Right.
So
And that stuff doesn't even bother me. If you're racing
yeah,
a car, I want to see you race. I don't care about what the manufacturer is. It's just a part of it's a part of what racing is. You can't just limit it to certain manufacturers, but like you said, Honda would be interesting to see in the sport.
yeah, and it's just a lot happening with these manufacturers. There's been talks about this for years. It'll be interesting to see, maybe with the next gen car, if a new manufacturer maybe steps up and joins. But a team that will look the same when we get this next gen car is the Ford team. Rodney Childers, he signed a contract extension to stay with the Ford team through 2023. Got to assume Kevin Harvick will be there as well through that time. I don't think he has any plans on retiring anytime soon, as from what he's been saying. And I guess he's been fine with Keelan out there. I think he's been spending enough time with him. He brings him to all the races practically. So I think it's a good thing for the Ford team, champions in 2014, and they've been championship contenders every year basically. So how do you think you think the Ford team? You think the Ford team could win another championship before that time?
I definitely think so. And I actually looked a little while ago just at Kevin Harvick's time at Stewart Haas. And I don't want to I don't have the exact number, but I'm pretty sure he's won like maybe 24 races since 2014 just driving for Stewart Haas. And that is only less than half of what he did when he was driving for Richard Childress from 2001 all the way to 2013. And he is 43 years of age, but he's got 48 wins. So he's doubled his wins since 2014. So in the past 5 years, just driving for Stewart Haas, and as he's getting older, which I think is super impressive. So, and plus we've seen him win already 3 times this year, and there's potential for him to win more and also win the championship as you mentioned. So this year alone, he's got a good shot. But also seeing that he signed that extension with Rodney Childers. Rodney's a great crew chief. They already won the championship together back in 2014 together, which was the first year that he was with Stewart Haas. And every single year, like you said, they've been competitive. They've been winning races. They've been in the title hunt. And they make it a homestead except one time. And we might see it again, like I said, this year. So I think it's a great partnership. I think it's one of the strongest that there are in NASCAR. I mean, you could argue for at a time, of course, it was Jimmy Johnson and Chad Canals. Um, you could look at guys like Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. But I think Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers might have the best chemistry when it comes to being consistent and being up front and leading a bunch of laps and making it to the very end when it counts.
Yeah, and you look at it, Rodney Childers, before going to Stewart Haas, he was with Michael Waltrip Racing and even got a win with Brian Vickers in the 55 car. So that showed that he had what it took to be a good crew chief, and to win in your first year as a pairing with Kevin Harvick, it's a big statement, and to be in the Final Four except once, that's unheard of right now. I think the only other pairing that really has been able to do that is Kyle Busch and Adam Stevens, and I just think that duo is gonna keep making the round of 8, the round of 4, moving down the road. I think this could set up for 2023 to be Harvick's last year. He'll be about 46, 47 at that time. So I think that team's not going to slow down, even with everyone else revolving in and out the doors at every other team. Yeah, the 10 switching drivers, the 14 switching drivers, the 41 switching drivers. And I think this sets up beautifully for Cole Custer. I think Cole Custer will get into Stewart-Haas racing here in the next year or two, and he'll be able to get mentored by Kevin Harvick. So I think this will be good for Cole Custer, having Kevin Harvick stay for another few more years.
Oh, definitely. And they need a big thing that Cole Custer needs is a ride, and they're trying to keep the chemistry together because it's been nice to see Stewart-Haas keep it. Not trying to get rid of a whole lot of drivers. They've kept it, I guess, these past couple years, the same team. They've had Kevin Harvick, Eric Almirola, Clint Bowyer, Daniel Suarez, and all of them have different elements to make a team as a whole really successful. And unfortunately, it hasn't been there 100% this year, as we thought that Suarez would be a little bit stronger. Almirola, he finished 5th in points last year. And this year, he just hasn't been able to even crack the top 10 most of the time. And Clint Bowyer having a lot more success recently, which has shown. But the first half of the year, and especially in the middle, was very, very rough for Clint Bowyer. But like you said, that extension going to 2023, I think you're right. That might be Kevin Harvick's last year when it comes to racing. Or else they would have made the extension a little bit longer because a lot of teams try to shoot for maybe a 5-year period. And that's only a 4-year period or 4-year, I believe. So it's a little bit shorter than what it could be. And like you said, Cole Custer about to step into the Monster Energy Cup Series. It is going to be a perfect time if they can get him in within the next couple of years, work with Kevin Harvick for a little bit, and also work off the teammates that he would have while he's there now, which I guess Clint Bowyer and Suarez are going to stay. Clint Bowyer being another experienced guy, Almirola another experienced guy, Suarez somebody youthful, but also won an Xfinity championship that can help give him a little bit of information. I think it would be perfect for Cole Custer to be able to follow in their shoes. And then once Harvick retires, we find out who the leader of Stewart-Haas is going to be.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens to Stewart-Haas racing down the road. And another thing that'll be really interesting is Talladega this week. Time to move into our preview of Talladega, the easiest race to predict all year. We'll look at, I think it's just going to be one of those races where all the teams get together, work together. I think, you got the Stewart-Haas's, the Penske, the Gibbs, the Hendrick. I think they're all going to work together, separately and try to win it on their own. We've seen it happen the last few years. Stewart-Haas last year dominated the race in the fall. And if it wasn't for fuel mileage, I'm pretty sure they would have gotten 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
And Penske's been able to do it. They dominate the race up front. Gibbs has been able to do it. They did it in the Daytona 500. I don't know. I'm interested to see if the Chevys and Toyotas gang up again to try to stop the Fords, as they did in Daytona. So if you get like the Hendrick and Gibbs alliance, to work together. And I just hope the attrition is higher this year, because I feel like last year the tires, for some reason, handling became a huge issue at Talladega, so they couldn't even race. They had to go single file because of the handling. I'm hoping handling's not a big issue, so the drivers can actually maneuver and make some moves, because that's what we want to see at Talladega. We don't want to see the train out there. We want to see the cars trying to make some moves, get that 3-wide racing going. And that's all I can hope for. And with these teams, like you got Chase Elliott. He makes desperate moves at Talladega. Him being below the cut line right now, you got to think he's going to be super aggressive. Same with Joey Logano. Clip Boyer's not too bad at these restrictor plate races. I think you got to look at those drivers to be super aggressive. The Gibbs guys, I don't know what their strategies. We were talking before the show. Whether they should all just go to the back and stay out of trouble, or should they go for some stage points to try to further, make themselves comfortable after Dega going into Kansas.
It'll be interesting to see. Like you said, Truex, all he's going to need are maybe 5 stage points. Not even that, maybe. Just to lock him in. And that's going to be the same with a couple other guys. So either they're going to want to just push it and get those stage points and lock it in completely, or they could just fall to the back, be a little bit conservative, and try to figure out if they want to make the move back to the front or not, or if they just want to, take home a solid 18th place finish and avoid all of the big calamity that could happen. Sometimes it doesn't always happen, but I feel like these days we do see a lot. So there's a good chance that there could be a couple big wrecks in this race. But I was looking at a little bit of stats when it comes to Talladega. And one thing I did find interesting, if you look at the top 5 drivers in the last 5 races that have started in all 5 of the last Talladega races, Almirola is at the top. He's finished in the top 10 every race, but he's not in the playoffs. But look at Almirola to be a threat. He's always a threat at restrictor plates. But in second, Joey Logano, his average finish is 9.2. He's finished in the top 10 for those races, in the top 5 for all 4 of those races, and he's led 176 laps. Out of every driver that has finished in, or that has done all the 5 last races, he's the second out of the, I guess, every other driver. And then if you look at third, surprising driver, Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch is third out of the top 5. His average finish is a 10.6, and he's finished in the top 20 for those races, and in the top 10 3 times, and he's led 116 laps on his own too. So both of those drivers, they're the only 2 out of the top 5 ranked at Talladega via statistics, which I know it is a wild card, but still statistics can matter, that they're both below the cutoff line, and they're going to be needing good runs to be able to find their way back into the top 8 in points. So I think that's a little important statistic. They might be 2 of the guys that you need to look out for to be running up front, as they have shown their successes at Talladega. But like you said, it is a wild card. Anything can happen. It's going to be a fun one to watch, unpredictable, but I hope that there's not a lot of grouping up in teams, maybe when it comes to pit stops and all, but it's just a little bit frustrating as a fan because you don't really get to see people racing against each other. I think it's better the point of racing is to race against your opponents, not race against other manufacturers.
Yeah.
So I really hope that that's not the case, but and it might not be, because we do need to see some of these drivers have good runs to find their way back in the top 8.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think I agree. You look at it, it's just, I don't know, sometimes these races get chaotic at the beginning and you see a big wreck early. Sometimes they play it safe at the beginning, and then it comes cautions fest at the end. Sometimes it just happens in the middle. With Ricky Stenhouse in the field, any wreck could happen at any time if he's racing up front. So I'm definitely not a comfortable I'm definitely not comfortable as a driver if I'm by Ricky Stenhouse at any point during the race. So you got to be cautious of that. I find it hard to believe if these teams don't work together, especially the Penske guys, since they have 2 guys below the cut line. I think they'll work together. Keselowski will work with them. Keselowski's only got about 20 points to the good too, so he's not nowhere. He's not out of the woods. One thing happens to him, and he'll be right below the cut line going into Kansas. So these guys got to race with a sense of urgency. you're sitting there below the cut line. You can't settle for that 15th place finish. You've got to go up there and get a top 5. You got to go up there try to win the race. And it gets desperate at the end, and we'll see with this package to see if there is a lot of passing, and if the leader has that big advantage like they do. And then one thing to watch is the last lap. I think if you're in second or you're trying to win the race, you can't wait until the last lap. You have to try to make the move with a few laps in advance, because we've seen many times there's a wreck coming to the white flag and they call the caution while the leaders are in like turns 1 and 2 or down the back straightaway. So you don't have that whole lap to try to make the move. You got to be ahead. You got to be in the lead at all times in the last lap because you don't know when the caution's coming out.
That's good to point out because there's been so many occurrences where I remember sitting on the couch watching the TV. We're chatting with a few friends and saying, why isn't this guy making the move? Why is he waiting to the last lap? Because there's been so many occurrences where that leader that's crossed the line either A, has had a caution come out, or B, has just been able to hold the spot and not had to worry about defending because everybody waits too late to try to make something happen. Even though they drive 10 laps in a round and don't really, it's like they'd never planned on when they wanted to make the move or never even tried. So I think it's going to be important for them to try to make the pass sooner than later, to try to be able to get out front, which could also definitely make for a crash or could make for a better finish. Two important things to look out for. And one other thing I wanted to add, just because when it comes to restrictor plates, this is a little off topic, but I really think that Front Row Motorsports might fare pretty well here, seeing that this is David Reagan's last race at Talladega, a place that he's had a lot of success at, not just by wins, but also being up front, leading a lot of laps. And Michael McDowell is also another phenomenal plate racer. Matt Tifft, he had a top 10 back at Daytona in the at the night race. So they might be a factor to also look out for just because they're always pretty aggressive. And if they team up, they could be trying to look for a victory. And David Reagan's probably looking for a good victory to close out his career.
Yeah, definitely. And you got to look at drivers. You got Matt DiBenedetto. He definitely wants to get a win for that 95 team before he goes. So you could look at him to be a front runner, as he was one of the best cars at Daytona in the 500. Drivers like that you don't see up front that much. They're going to have their chance this week. And we'll go into our last segment, the playoff drivers to steer clear from this week. My two drivers this week to stay away from: Ryan Blaney and Kevin Harvick. Ryan Blaney seems to get the short end of the stick every time at these restrictor plate races. His teammates have been so successful, while Ryan Blaney he always gets caught up in something. And Kevin Harvick, I just think, he's just due for that one, bad race, and I think he might get caught up in something or just not run up front too much. I think he might be a mid-pack finisher this week.
Those are two good ones to have. My first one goes to William Byron, and a lot of it comes with his lack of experience when it comes to restrictor plates. Even though he did win at Daytona back in the Xfinity Series, and did look pretty good in the Daytona race earlier this year, but he's only finished inside the top 20 one of those times, and that was with the rain-shorted race that we saw back in the spring of this year, or I guess in the summer. I don't know if William Byron's going to... He might be that guy to get the pole, but then he might not be that guy to keep the pole. I think he just typically fades back. I don't think he has enough experience when it comes to blocking or placement of his car. Maybe he's not the best at handling in the draft. So I think he's one guy to steer clear of. The other I'm going to give to... I guess I'll give to Kyle Larson. Even though he's locked in to the next round, I think I'd be a little worried if I were him because he's never really been the best when it comes to restrictor plates. I feel like he always gets caught up in the wrong with the short end of the stick. And if somehow in some way he gets wrecked, he's probably going to be running up front since he's already safe. So you've got to look out for him if he's going to be going around somewhere. But I guess I can give it to Kyle Larson, if that's all right.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Kyle Larson going into this race, just don't take a hard hit. Just try not to,
Yeah.
take a hard hit, that leaves you sore or something. Just leave that race. Try to leave the car in one piece. Just try to keep your body in one piece. That's all you can try to do if you're Kyle Larson going, into Talladega.
Right.
And we'll end this one on our winners for Talladega. I'm gonna go with Brad Keselowski. I think he's gonna win at Talladega. I think he's got what, 6 wins there now, 5 or 6. So Keselowski definitely, I think he's the favorite going in, and I think he knows he's not nowhere near safe, so he's gonna be going all out for the win, and I think he'll get it.
I actually went the other way, and I actually went Joey Logano. I feel like his aggressiveness stands out a little bit more than Brad Keselowski's when it comes to trying to block, when it comes to trying to fight his way towards the front. Not saying that Keselowski isn't aggressive, but I feel like Logano's a little bit more hungry, and especially in this situation, being below the cutoff line at the moment, coming in as the defending champion. And I think he's going to be really hungry for that win and looking to find his way to the front no matter what it takes. So he might be making some more enemies on the track when it comes to it, being very aggressive with side drafting and finding his way back towards the front. So I think if he does, and I think if he gets that lead, especially with the Penske cars behind him, that being Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, and also Paul Menard, because they all work together. I don't see any of them being able to get around Joey Logano with his defensive maneuvers. So Joey Logano is my pick to win.
All right, you heard it here. We've got Penske winning it this week. One of them going to lock their way into the round of 8. Talladega's going to be a fun race. It can't be any worse than Dover, hopefully. I'm Dom Caps. I was joined today by Wes. Thank you for joining.
Oh, it was a pleasure to be here. This was my first ever NASCAR podcast. I've done a lot of MMA stuff in the past, so it was good to take a little switch of the athletics and come over to the NASCAR world and chat for a little while. So I appreciate you having me on the show.
It was definitely a great time today. Hope you guys enjoyed listening, and I'll see you next week as we'll recap Talladega and take a look into Kansas. Have a good one, guys.